Nick Allegretti is the new left guard of your Washington Commanders, came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. Started the conversation with him juxtaposing this camp to what he's been used to in KC.
We're long enough into camp now, I guess, to get a good feel for the tempo and the pace with the new staff. You've obviously experienced a whole nother vibe in Kansas City. What do you make of this?
I like it. It's high pace while we're out there. He's not keeping us out here for hours and hours. We're out here. We're getting our work in, and he's reading the group. If he calls it early, knowing we have a real hard day the next day, so he's taking care of it, which is great. But I love the tempo. Everyone has a really good understanding of how to practice with speed and take care of each other, which I think is it's a huge challenge, especially with so many new guys. A lot of young guys coming out of college don't really know how to play like an NFL player, but I think they're doing a great job. So I think that's been awesome for us.
One observation I've made is I feel like there's a lot more rotating along the line, too, rather than just having the same five guys, first, second, third team. What do you make of that, and how does that help you guys as you get closer?
Well, yeah, it's such a new group. It's been awesome to get to play next to a bunch of different guys, whether I'm, at left guard next to Ty and Brandon or Lucas, or Trent's been out there at tackle, or at center getting to work next to a bunch of guys. It's good because you need to know the guys that you're playing with and trust the guys that you're playing with. 18-week season, there isn't an offense, knock on wood, but I don't know last time all 32 offensive lines played 17 games. So that's not going to happen. Someone's going to have to step up at some point. So knowing and trusting the guys that, we have in this room, the 8 guys we're going to have dressed on game day, is super important. I think it gives us a really good chance to do that when we're playing and, intermingling every day.
As far as learning the offense or learning the guys around you as you're referencing, how long does that typically take, or do you already feel like you've kind of mastered the playbook as you're out here right now?
In terms of the playbook, I'm real confident with it. There's some small nuanced things that, in training camp, the playbook is huge. And you continue to install, and then you get to the first game, and it's a 5% or 20% of that, so it's much smaller. So we're getting to the point now where we've got some plays in that we're only going to run against certain defenses. It's training camp. We can't tell the defense how to line up. So there's some challenges that come up there. But in terms of the playbook, I mean, it's football is football. The way we're going to pass protect is always different team to team. But a deuce block's a deuce block, an A block's an A block. That stuff doesn't change. So feel really good with where we're at with the playbook, and a little bit different the way we call it. It's more of a college word-based offense, but gotten real comfortable with that. I think the QBs love it, so it's been good.
Next week, you guys have the joint practice with the Jets. I'm curious for your perspective. There's a lot made of this in the media. Do you find those practices more helpful maybe than a preseason game, as much so? It seems from the outside like you're able to do situational work and kind of dictate terms. It might even be more beneficial than a preseason game, but what about for you?
Well, we have the same perspective because I've not had a joint practice yet. Kansas City does not do them, so I've never had a joint practice. So in a week, I'll let you know what it's like compared to the preseason.
They never did one while you were there?
Not one joint practice.
Is that a philosophy, you think?
That is a Coach Reed thing. He does not like joint practices. He's not done one in a very long time.
Wow.
That's his thing. Couldn't tell you the reasoning. But they get plenty of work in over there. There's no concern there.
Lastly, obligatory Jaden question. I'll apologize in advance because you probably get asked about him a lot. What's your perspective of a rookie and how he's performed and what he's shown so far?
Super professional. I would say that's the first thing that really sticks out is he's happy to be here every day, always in a good mood, and he's here all day. Still, I said this in OTAs. He's here before me every day, and I mean, I'm getting in 2.5 hours before practice. We got nothing before. All we have is practice at 9. I'm here at 6:30. He's here. So he's here early, preparing mentally, physically. Not, I don't want to say quiet, but, there's some rooks that come into this league, and they're a little too loud, a little bit too big of fans of themselves, comfortable. Jaden's not like that. He's able to talk and shoot the shit, which is awesome. But, he knows, he's got a long way to go in this league, and he understands that mentality. And I love seeing the way he attacks every day, picking Marcus's brain and the coach's brain, Zach's brain, has really, I think he's done an incredible job his first couple months here.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely appreciate you, Grant.
Nick Allegretti, the new left guard with the Commanders, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. So a couple things I want to zero in on there. First thing, did you notice he said it's a college word-based offense? The quarterbacks love that. That had my antenna go up a little bit. We talk about making this transition as easy as possible. I really want to Saturday proof this offense. What I mean by that is run design stuff, run read option, indoctrinate Jaden Daniels by giving him as much of the LSU playbook as Cliff Kingsbury thinks will work at this level. But that's conceptual.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of even like what we're calling plays and how you're calling them in the huddle, a college word-based offense that's quarterback friendly. I don't think that's a coincidence with a first-year rookie quarterback coming from the college ranks. Now, maybe that was what Cliff's offense was in Kyler Murray's third year in Arizona. I don't know. But it's clearly very different than what he's used to with Andy Reid for him to point that out.
Yeah, so I wonder, I think that's the significant data point there, is it's not what he's experienced before in other stops, but I also wonder how, different that is for Kingsbury's history. Did he reinvent all of his language
or even
based
how
on this desire?
That's becoming in football.
And that's the other
one.
Like,
I wonder how much, it used to be we use these 11, ways of saying plays, whereas now every position, I don't know what word based, it might just mean, Apple is a certain concept, or hey, we're running orange and everyone knows what to do on orange. Or it might mean that it actually just all the way out, you say X flank, B post, whatever it is, and you run through your X, your Y, your Z, what everybody's doing on any given play. I don't know exactly how they do it, but that just, to me, it meant maybe they're trying to make things a little easier for Jaden in his first year, which is music to my ears.
Indeed. And listen, whatever we can do, and this is the royal way, I have nothing to do with it, but whatever we can do to ensure Jaden Daniels' success, we should be doing. So if Kingsbury came in before this and goes, I don't run that word-based system that is ubiquitous in college, I would say, well, maybe you should. So if he went through this big transformation like Kyle Shanahan and company did for Robert Griffin, for example, that was, a lot of traditional Shanahan stuff, but stuff that they hadn't invented yet to try to ensure some success, I'm all for that. I'm with you on that.
Second thing I wanted to call attention to from that combo. Andy Reid doesn't do joint practices.
How about that?
I guess I've noticed the last couple years that the Chiefs didn't do a lot in that way. I didn't know that was a hard and fast rule, basically, that they've never done joint practices, and that according to Allegretti, Andy Reid doesn't like them. He said he doesn't really know why. That is the trend. Everybody's doing them more and more and more. And most of the teams and the coaches and the executives behind the operations where they do these tell you that they're more helpful. You kind of heard my logic there, but I always say you get to dictate situational football. If I'm playing against Danny's team in a preseason game, there's no guarantee that there'll ever be a goal line play. So my offensive front or my defensive front may not get a chance to get in goal line or short yardage. There may never be a 3rd and a foot. There may never be a 4th and a yard. Whereas in a practice, beforehand, I go, all right, we want to work in short yardage. We want to work in red zone. We want to work in goal line. We would like to do 2-minute offense. There might not be a 2-minute situation or a 4-minute situation in a preseason game. So for all those reasons, I think you get more done maybe in these practices. But I'm a big believer in figuring out what the best teams that have the best operations do and trying to pattern it after them, pattern what you do after how they've won.
Until you become one of them.
I wonder why Andy Reid doesn't like joint practices, because he seems to be in the minority.
Yeah, it's, everybody's got their own little picadillos and kind of, things that you don't really believe in or kind of how you were raised. And
What's
he's been
a picadillo?
Just some small little set aside, like everybody's got a little something like Grant rubs his eyes.
Flavorful ground beef, spices, green olives, boiled eggs, and raisins cooked in a delicious tomato sauce and then served over a bed of rice.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Cuban picadillo?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So, but everyone's got things, Reid's been so successful, he doesn't need to. But, everybody else, the trend line is going in that direction for the reasons you just stated, right? Where you can get more work done, more important work, and you can control it. You can get some of those matchups that you want to see. I need to see a guy that's vying for the starting right tackle job go up against a speed rusher. Well, I got one of those. Let's have him do it 7 times in a row or whatever, right? You can work those things out with the other coach. The preseason model has now gone to guys don't really play in the preseason. We're not showing anything. I guess if you've got one of the best quarterbacks ever to live, that you don't really need to show anything and you're confident in your own stuff and you got some continuity there? I don't know.
Veteran team, continuity. It's been the same offense. Yes, there are some new players, but it's basically table dressing. Maybe there's less necessity for you to get a lot done this time of year. I even feel that way with them in the regular season to an extent. It seems like they're kind of in San Antonio Spurs dynasty
Well,
mode.
you remember how the Patriots always were. Now, they would do joint practices at the yin yang. So it just shows you how much coincidence there is or corollary there is. But for New England, if you were going to beat them during these years where for 20 straight, they're basically going to the AFC title game and Super Bowl every year or every year and a half, September. They weren't as good. Remember, Kansas City was floundering last year at various points. Lost their opener. They were just okay. The offense was scuffling. And wouldn't you know, that group was good enough to win the Super Bowl
Yeah,
again.
everything they do is about being at their best in January.
Yeah.
And they can play that game because they know they'll be there with Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was saying was the Spurs dynasty mode was regular season was just kind of like a, all right, we got 14 more games and then we'll get, then we'll get to the playoffs. They just kind of had to get there. And eventually they'd flip the switch, Duncan Robinson and the boys, and now you're not beating them. The Chiefs have a little bit of that where if you go back and look at Travis Kelce's first half last year, it was fine.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he
Pacing
got his numbers, but they don't really break more than a sweat than they have to, it feels like, in the early part of their schedule or in the regular season. So maybe that's reflective of that. I also think, and I have no idea what Andy Reid's logic on this is, I think there are coaches, even the ones that do this, that hate the fights in these things. They hate them. You can't have a joint practice without a melee, it seems like. You cannot have two teams get together in the heat on a practice field where there's no real rules. I mean, it's kind of, do whatever you want. No one's suspending you. No one's fining you. Worst case scenario, you're getting sent to the sideline and screamed at or told to go back into the locker room. There's not a whole lot of punishment beyond that. I mean, how often are we seeing brawls and the benches clearing and guys swinging on each other? And I just think coaches don't love suffering that kind of tomfoolery either. So maybe Andy Reid
I wonder if that's
just out on that. He goes, we're not playing that game. I'm not getting somebody hurt, punching a helmet, breaking a finger. I'll just practice against my own guy.
Yeah, probably every speech in every meeting room is about punching somebody in the mouth and getting up and not getting pushed around in our house and establishing physicality and doing our thing. And then, whoa, you guys did that? It's always funny to me.
I don't think you literally mean to punch someone in the mouth.
I know. Just it's crazy though that like we're talking about all this aggression and let's get it out and let's establish dominance and next thing you know it spills over. I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game though.
It is
the
totally
control of the aggression and being in control of yourself. It's always been an admirable, amazing thing, even at the college level when these guys threw the whistle are just gladiators, and then the whistle blows and they help someone up, or they'll pick up the cameraman they knocked over, or whatever.